Welcome to Small Potatoes.
Where we give you a naughty tease of our latest Patreon episode.
Be sure to subscribe. Links are in the description. We're going to talk about two posts actually that came from Twitter. One from a former sex worker that then triggered a reply that, let's just say, we strongly disagree with, given our lifestyle and our background. So I want to jump into reading the first one, and we'll move on to the second one from there.
So excited because I think we just noticed this morning. Like 48 million people have seen this conversation, and there's a lot of replies, a lot of opinions. Anyways, the original sex worker's tweet I will read for everybody. So her name is Lucy, and her handle's at a black lady one. My years as a sex worker taught me that men are very emotionally starved people. I don't say this in a boo-hoo, male loneliness, woe is them way. But even I am still incredulous how many men would pay just for emotional intimacy. Men would book a champagne room just to cry. And then a guy decided to quote tweet that and reply. So, Riley, hit the people with it.
This came from The Rich. Being a sex worker teaches you literally nothing about the average man because the average man doesn't see sex workers.
It's like, I don't want to hit myself any harder. It's so annoying. Immediately I was triggered.
Yeah, I feel like we don't agree with either of these posts in their entirety. A little bit of the first one, but I know you got some big thoughts on this.
Right. Like, I think the gist of what she's saying in like on a lighter sense is true. You will learn so much about men being a sex worker. You'll learn so much about women as well, about yourself, about human beings, about human connection. There's a lot of psychology behind the job that you don't even realize when it's happening that you're learning it. It's more in like reflection back that you're really like, oh, see, I've met a lot of people like that, or that seems to be a common thing, or most people react that way, and so on and so forth. And if you're a studious person, you might dive deeper into that and ask more inquisitive questions to clients, or, you know, have coffee talk with the girls, kind of analyzing the psychology of it. I don't agree with her last part. I don't think men that whether they are seeing sex workers with emotional needs, like themselves having emotional needs to be fulfilled, or without, if they're just thinking, you know, carnal and physical and with their dick, I don't think anyone sees a sex worker only, or she says just to cry. I don't think that's true. I'm over my career, I met lots of men that were more openly emotional, were a little softer in their demeanor or their conversation or how much they'd share. I wouldn't say any of them booked a session because they needed to like unload and trauma dump to Emily. Like that doesn't make sense. They didn't book a 30-minute cry. Like they didn't. So I think there are lots of people, I had lots of clients that cried in my time, right? And some it was more often. I'll definitely say that. Like I had some criers for sure. They were usually people that were struggling in their life at that time in some way. But there was surprise cries sometimes where something is going on in their real life, but they come in for a session to escape, to put that out of mind. Let me get my mind off it. You know, I'm about to lose my job, or my mother just died, or, you know, the car was in a car accident yesterday. How am I going to pay for it? Like whatever the trigger thing is, they're coming in to escape. And then lo and behold, something triggers the emotion. It just kind of pours out. Like a song on the radio pops on, or she says something that reminds him of the way his mother used to cook, or like whatever it is, and it triggers it. And then that emotion bursts out, which I think is as human as the experience could get, because that's real. It's like a pregnant woman crying in the grocery store. Like it's that's real, right? It's not always logical. It doesn't always seem like the right time or place, but we're humans. And so I found those things endearing. I found they normalized people, because I think we're about to dive in these comments. We'll see. There's an assumption that every client that sees sex workers is some creepo, some weirdo, some pervy guy, some, you know, dudes that like crawl out from under a bridge somewhere and like go into the shadows of the night. And listen, the anti-sex work people who make the laws think the same thing because they don't want to
Right.
hear joyous stories from us about real people with real emotions. But that attaches on to the same stigma of sex workers and the fact that often sex people don't acknowledge that sex workers too are real people. I
Mhm.
had a few sessions I cried in. Now, I didn't ruin his session. It
Right.
led to emotional conversation and I too got emotional. But like, we're all just real people with real shit going on in our lives, and sometimes that escape is absolutely no different than when we go book a facial at the spa because we just want to like disconnect from everything and check out for a little bit. Going to the
Mhm.
bar and having a beer is the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
just because someone chooses a sex worker doesn't mean all the other emotions stop, and doesn't mean that they're creepy or weird or pervs, and doesn't take away their humanity. It makes them, if anything, to me, more human.
Mhm.
So those
Yeah.
are the parts that I definitely disagreed with.
I disagree in the same part with you. I can't really see someone booking a champagne room to trauma dump. But I think it
Right.
happens a lot more organically than that. And it's through that stripped down version. It's through building that connection that then he's able to peel back those layers and reveal what he needs to get off his chest, and what better place to
Right.
do that. And I think it happens, like I said, much more organically than that. I don't think they're like, you know what, I need to vent. I'm going to book an escort.
Right. Right. Because listen, most people need to vent. And
Hmm.
even those that book a therapist are still resistant to venting or to like
Right.
opening that floodgate or potential floodgate. Right. But you're right. It happens so organically that it can be unexpected. It can be a little jarring to the person themselves.
Hmm.
Or there's almost that at the end, they're like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Or like to just lay all that on you. But listen, you and I are best friends. We have conversations like that too, where something just has to come out. And after we're
Yeah.
like, sorry, man, I didn't mean to take 20 minutes, just like rant your ear off about, it started at the laundry machine is broken and ended up at, oh, but my trauma from my mother. Like,
Right.
but it comes out, you know what I mean? And I love that we are a safe space. We can talk about that. And I know that's such a cliche expression now, but there is something legit about being stripped down in a sex work session
Yeah.
for both people because there's layers off. You're naked. You're already stripped. You're already peeled back. And so that rawness, that organicness, that humanity is literally right there, not just exposed, but on the surface.
Hmm.
So passion comes out, anger could come out, emotional sadness, depression, worries, like so many things can come out of a person more than just come. Like
Hmm.
literally things happen between two human beings that often lead to liquids of some kind, and tears are included. Like it's a real thing, and it builds a better connection with your customers and builds a trust that is so special. I've always said naked friends are some of the best friends you'll ever have because it's true, because you know things about each other or speak in a candor that isn't common. And most guys don't have a relationship like you and I do, where they can just call up a buddy and just cry for 20 minutes about whatever happened at home. They just don't have it. And so we end up, Muse ends up a safe space for those kind of people. And
Hmm.
again, I hate the cliche and how that word's been kind of twisted to be a little softer than it should be, but it is a safe space. You can say whatever is on your heart or your mind to let out. We listen. It's, an hour of our time to just listen. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's moaning and passionate and dirty talk. And sometimes it's raw emotion, and you
Hmm.
can grieve and you can express loss or worry or fear, and nobody's judging you. We're standing there without even our underwear. Like, how am
Yeah.
I going to judge you in this moment? It's almost impossible to do. And so those connections really happen. And so, yeah, you learn a lot as a sex worker. I'd say in
Absolutely.
some respects, maybe not more, but different than even a therapist. Because in a therapy session, you're not sitting as two naked people with a notepad, just having a conversation, right? Which sounds pervy and creepy, but that would change the information of the conversations revealed in those therapy sessions if they were literally stripped, because we see that in evidence in real lived experience every single day. It's just,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's kind of
I think
cool.
it allows customers to feel or be vulnerable in those situations, because there's already this element of, in this fantasy world, we're not using our real names. We don't know each other outside. I think they often take comfort in that it's not someone they're going to see the next day at the office. I mean, in reality, he never has to see her again. He likely will because of that connection that's been built, but there's no pressure to do so. He can walk away and kind of leave everything where he put it.
I mean, it's like an emotional glory hole, right? Like it can be that disconnected. I love my metaphors, right? But like there's a wall that separates in a glory
Yeah.
hole, right? You don't really know who you're doing. And it's very much the same in practice, because you're right. You could do that in a city like Toronto thousands of times and still not repeat, right? Like there's so much sex work here that you could literally talk to a different person. You could opinion poll if you wanted advice on what to do next. Do I leave my wife or not? Do I quit my job or not? Go have 10 different sessions at a strip club, an escort agency, a place like Muse, whatever, and then pull the answers and make your decision. It's like live Reddit. Like you can get immediate response right there and be like, I need advice, or let me unload this and see what people say. But we too have that kind of plethora. I mean, I worked for 8 years full time. I never took a vacation. So I don't always want to do that math. But I've had intimate conversations with thousands of naked men
Yeah.
whilst naked.